and welcome everybody to Talking Niagara on our last day of this year, 2024. It's Friday, December 20th. Happy birthday, Bob. All right, that's my brother, by the way. It's his birthday. Always, I remember his birthday was always like the last school day when we were at school. You know, probably be the only day he'd show up to school, to be quite honest.
Yes.
They never did anything bad to him because he was a straight A student, you know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he did what he wanted. He came into school, sat a few tests, always got A, never less than A, you know? Couldn't.
Yeah.
Whereas I struggled to get anything, you know?
Well, I struggled to be at school. I was late quite often.
Okay.
Does that surprise you?
No, that doesn't surprise me. Okay. I seem to have another problem. Okay. So holiday, everything is frozen up again.
Now you're frozen to me.
Yeah, no, everything is frozen.
Well, I'm still animated on my end here.
Yeah, and I don't know, my browser seems to be something's killing it.
Are we broadcasting?
Yeah, I think we are broadcasting. I'm now actually got something moving again. Okay, here we go. So, holiday campaign to help Red Roof Retreat. They seem to always have a Red Roof Retreat campaign around about this time of year. This is a Niagara-on-the-Lake based non-profit, and they offer recreational programming for children and youth with special needs. And it's they're in the middle of their annual Gifts from the Heart campaign. They're looking towards about halfway through to a 60,000 fundraising goal, and charity has about 800,000 to 1 million budget annually. I believe you help them with this sometimes a bit, don't you?
Yes, this year we gave them $4,000. Last year, I think it was $5,000. Yeah, we've stepped up to give Red Roof Retreat money. They were very appreciative during COVID times because they couldn't run their campaigns. Yeah, I've been down there a couple of times, actually. I've been on site there a couple of times to see what was going on. And it's special needs children, and it's a whole lot of very hard work.
Yeah.
And very, very devoted people in that place. So if you've got a few extra coins, that is a very worthwhile. I can tell you it's a super worthwhile place because there's a house there and a kind of a barn and everything, and they give recreational facilities for special needs kids, and even adults later on come by for a place to hang out, and they have all the facilities. They can actually take care of a kid, special needs kids, for a few days, so the adults can their parents can get a break from time to time, because it's such a strain taking care of special needs kids. Lots of time devoted to it, lots of special equipment sometimes.
Yeah.
So they have all the facilities there, and it's just it's a wonderful place, actually, but it takes a lot of work, and I don't know, it's just very, very trying to get the name of the lady here. Yeah, I've met and talked to both these ladies. Stephanie Bjorgen, she's the She's the main one. She's the inspiration of all this. Is she had a special needs kids of her own,
Yeah.
and Krista Rosthorn. I've met her a few times too, and I'm telling you, it is a lot of work. Uh, they brought the special in order for us to give checks one year. I think it was in the summertime to Red Roof Retreat, Soup Kitchen, and there was one more. We had them all come to the Soup Kitchen, and uh, and they sent a busload of kids because every once in a while they take them for a little outing. So they did, and they brought them there to the Soup Kitchen. So it's kind of neat that. But on the same hand, I have to say that the amount of work these people do and the return they get is very little per person. I don't know how much they're paid, but Stephanie herself probably isn't getting much at all. But they don't. They just get what they need to keep surviving. I mean, it's a work of love, actually, more than anything. And the place actually belongs to Stephanie, I believe. That's her place in down in Niagara on the Lake.
Mhm.
So if there's a couple of Red Roof retreats, but the one right there in Virgil is the main one, and that's where the most of the activities happen. So yeah, it's very touching when you go there. And when I was there, I'm thinking to myself, my God, this is a lot of work and effort to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Chris Simone's pointing out there's a cabinet reshuffle in Ottawa. Yeah. The only thing is, there's one position that needs to be reshuffled that won't be that of the
Yeah,
Prime
that's the
Minister.
Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Chris,
you
you're
can
right.
forget that. I'm deluding myself that I'm still great, so I'm going to just appoint somebody else.
Well, the Prime Minister was going to replace Freeland with Mark Carney, but the trouble is, he never asked Mark Carney first. Mark Carney refused it out of hand.
Of course he would.
Champagne, his other minister, refused it out of hand.
Yeah, of course he
He
would.
had to depend on LeBlanc, who was a lifetime friend of his, back from childhood. I think he took on the post, and he has got no experience as finance minister. So the shuffle's not going to do anything. And what we'll probably see in the new year is, young Justin will have to have a walk in the snow, basically. And
yeah, maybe it'll be taken out by a security detail.
yeah, well, what's going to happen? Well, that's an analogy, because when his father finally quit, he told the story. Well, I went for a walk in the snow, and I decided that was enough. I should step down. His father was a longtime prime minister. So
Yeah.
when anybody talks about having a walk in the snow, they mean to,
Yeah,
it's
I know.
time to step down. And Justin, I think his best course of action will be to pro-government so that his party can get another leader. And
That may be the best course of action, but I'm sorry, Dave, it is not the course of action he's going to take. Believe me.
well, then his party's going to get destroyed.
His party's going to get ruined. Yes, absolutely.
He's trying to hang on right to the very last minute, the 25th, because I don't know, he's waiting for a miracle. He's waiting for a pile of dirt on Polyev that puts him in brothels smoking crack cocaine or something, but that ain't going to happen. He's looking for all kinds of, probably just kind of combing everything, trying to find dirt on Polyev, but they're not going to find it, and they're just there's nothing they can do to make themselves more popular.
Yep. Oh yeah, we'll get there anyway. We'll get there. Okay. So, anything further on Red Roof Retreat?
No, but I would like to bring up something I promised to bring up yesterday, and that was the the regional housing program that's on Summer Street and Buchanan Street, and it was brought up at the last council meeting. Where on Buchanan Street there is a sort of a housing a place for homeless people. The region put it up there, and it's to house homeless people. And what it's supposed to do is supposed to kind of shelter them and rehabilitate them, try to reintroduce them into the community. And it's not working. It's not working in a big way. And the residents say the region actually had misled them. It's a supportive housing facility in Buchanan Street, and it's a former hotel, and it's retrofitted to support people experience chronic homelessness. And of course, the region promised the city and the residents of the area, and the residents of the area were okay with it when they were first presented to it with it 3.5 years ago. And Nick Benedetti, he was the guy who, one of the neighbors who lived across the street from the unit. He was one of the persons that spoke. Well, he was the main person that spoke at city council. And what he tells us is that the whole place is a failure. The point at City Hall was this place wanted to build a 6-foot wrought iron fence. And has actually got the posts in the ground and started to build it before they got complete, before the appeal process was over and all that. But basically, the biggest problem was needles, robberies, deaths, and police coming all the time. Coming all the time. And at one time, he was told by the police, who had shields and everything all ready to go, to get into your basement or go into your backyard in case the bullets fly. So you can imagine in an everyday, ordinary neighborhood, like the one I live in, the one you live in, and a police coming to you, better get in the basement in case bullets fly.
Well, Mike's had that for sure, because there were raids on Arad Street, multiple raids on Arad Street a while back as well.
Yeah, so that was, there's a situation where the region has counseled the neighborhoods, assured them, assuaged them of their fears, told them that it was going to be a really good place. They were going to screen each one of the residents in the place to make sure they got ones that will behave themselves as best they can. And what has happened is pretty much the opposite.
Yeah.
And the reason why they wanted to put up a big fence is because they can't afford a security guard in the area. Yeah. So what you have is robberies, needles, bad actors, swearing at people. And Nick Benedetti talked about a couple from Nova Scotia that was robbed right there in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then said they'll never come back. And
of course. Yeah.
So and then all the different counselors started talking about it. And of course, they're in sympathy with the neighborhood. I particularly like Laura Coco's comments, because she pointed out that the process wasn't done properly, and of course everybody fell in line with what the descriptions of the region said that was going to happen, and actually that hasn't happened. So basically, each one of the counselors had good things to say in sympathy with the residents, but in this particular case, they only brought up the fence because that's all they could do at city council. But Lori herself said something about going back to the region and saying, look, you have to admit these things aren't working and you can't do it. You're not doing it well. You haven't come up and told us, you haven't been upfront with us, basically. And says, well, she's been a proponent of transitional housing and shelters. The region has proven with Summer Street and Buchanan sites, they're not able to handle what they promised they do.
Yeah.
completely different from everything that was laid out to us at City Council, to the residents. So I think that needs further discussion about what we need. So very succinct and to the point. And that pretty much sort of sums up what the council is thinking. Basically, look, we got played. You played us the wrong cards here. You told us one thing, and you haven't been able to deliver.
Yeah.
And can you imagine? And I think one of the counselors says, "Can you imagine trying to sell your house now in a place like that?" I think it was strange. Would you be able to sell your house when you knew this residence was there? Reduced the
not easily.
No.
Makes the whole thing a mess, doesn't it? Okay, there's a question out here. So Chris has asked a question. Can you explain an MPP, MP, and job as city councillors? Well, the MP is our representative at the federal government. So
Ottawa.
Ottawa. So when they make decisions that are federal in nature, that impact all of the country, that is what your MP is voting on. Your MPP is your member of the provincial parliament, so that he's our person at Queen's Park, right?
In Toronto.
And they will have more of a provincial responsibility, and they actually also have overlying responsibility for local municipalities as well. And the city councillor is our person in City Hall, who we vote for, people like Laurie Lococo. Right? But we've got two levels of council, remember. We have the regional council as well as the city council. All right?
Yeah. The city councilor is just for the city, but don't forget, in this area, we have another layer of government, and that's the regional. So if you go from the bottom to the top, it would be city councilor, regional councilor, MPP, MP.
Yeah.
So it would go city, region, province, country.
Yeah. And seems taxpayers pay too many to do the same job. That is a frequent problem, Betty.
Yeah, a lot of overlay again.
Yeah. Let's move on anyway. So Niagara Falls Library provides 36.5 million of economic benefits, so they claim.
Yeah. Yeah. So the library itself, now it's hard to, I don't want to be the meanie here, but it's kind of hard to really read this when the data that they use. Now what they say is for every dollar spent on the library, you get $6.80 back in value. But it's based on analysis of operation areas, including education, culture, inclusion, well-being, entertainment and leisure, economic development, civic engagement, and physical space. The library calculated that the overall economic benefit to the community at just more than $36.5 million. The benefit works out to about $387 per person, per resident, or nearly $1,000 per household. But the figures are compiled using the Valuing Ontario Libraries Toolkit, VOLT it's called.
Yeah.
Were presented during a library board meeting Wednesday as the officials provided an update on the first year of the library's new 4-year strategic plan. So it sounds like VOLT came out of the Ontario Library Service, which is a transfer agency of the province government. So I have a feeling that when basically the bulk of information is from annual public library surveys that all the public libraries have to submit to the provincial government. The formulas are changed depending on where you are and what community you are, so that the results that we get are very much specific to our community. I'm not so sure I trust that process.
It sounds like a bit of chicanery in their, in their statistics to me.
I would not like to use the word chicanery, but I think it sounds to me like one of these forms is all set up. This information is set up to make the library look good.
Yeah.
But needless to say, the library does function
Oh,
huge
I
in our
believe
community.
it. I believe it provides a benefit, an economic benefit, but I don't know how you can measure that economic benefit.
Yeah, that's not really. It's sort of only lightly explained. Now, of
Yeah,
course, the libraries come under criticism because of the amount of money that the library costs. But
yeah,
let me point this out, and it talks about this in the article too. That a lot of people use the computers in the libraries, and I've witnessed that.
yeah. You're frozen up again, Dave. Right, and as Mike says, you can't put a price on education, can you? And that's the point. Is that I think because of public libraries, we've got people who've done much better in their lives because of public libraries. I would count public libraries as being a key to what has gone on in my life. You know.
Yeah, and the libraries out of the $90 million we have of our total levy, about $5.5 million of that goes allocated towards the library,
Yeah.
which
I
includes
don't.
another $5.5 million as a grant and debt payment of $122,517. Our club gave the library $15,000 and then another $3,333 and another $3,333 this year and next year to make a total of $25,000 to the Stanford library so they can renovate.
Yeah.
And it has worked out very well. It's a well-used library. People go there. It's close to Ann Meyer and other schools around there, so it gets used.
Is that
And the senior building just down the street, which is very good too.
is that fully open again yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to be clear because I knew it was partially open, but it remained partially open throughout the build. I just wasn't sure whether it was yet fully open. But yeah, that's good. Excellent. All right. My only wish for that library is that somebody should donate the land it's on to the city.
Yeah, that would be the best thing. And the fact that they have to rent it was a problem because during COVID they couldn't renovate, but they still had to pay the rental fee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which put them 2 or more years behind schedule, and which meant that when they did finally start building, all things had been increased, so their budget was thrown askew.
Yeah.
Because now all the building materials and the global shortages and all that push the cost of renovations well beyond where they had initially happened, and that was all because of COVID. So they had to pay rent on a building they couldn't use, and because they signed contracts, and then they couldn't renovate until after COVID, and what a mess. But they got their feet back on the ground now. And as I said before, I've seen lots and lots of people who don't have computers or internet using those computers and internet in the library. In that library, and the one on Victoria Avenue. So
Yeah.
it's very, very important for a lot of people who don't have a whole lot of means to be able to connect with the world. And it's hard not to belong to this world any longer if you cannot connect to the internet.
Yeah. Okay, so going to our Christmas theme of the week, which we've been talking about all week, things you can do over the Christmas holiday. They're talking about one, host a Christmas game night. So figure out what games you want to play, like Christmas bingo, classic board games, elf-themed Monopoly, and host a game night. So get your friends around, host a game night.
Pictionary is a good one. Pictionary is money. Get yourself a cheap whiteboard from the dollar store with some cheap markers, and you could do the Pictionary thing. We had a lot of fun with that at our Toastmasters party last year. This year we did charades. So
I hate charades.
Well, most of the guys didn't like it. The ladies were all in for it, but I told the guys, like, we got kind of clutched together, and I said, "There's no way we can win this without cheating." So we made signals and stuff, right? So we held our own, but we still lost in the end, despite the fact we cheated.
Yeah, I hate charades. Can never win that one. Okay, another one. Random acts of kindness. It's time for random acts of kindness. I think that's actually what sets Christmas apart from many people. that we haven't had, and we lose random acts of kindness. I remember that was what I fondly remember about Christmas. You get people just walking down the street and say, "Merry Christmas." We don't get that anymore.
No, you don't. As a matter of fact, I think I've been the only one that said I haven't had a hail of Merry Christmas to myself unless I've initiated it first.
Yeah.
People they seem to be very resistant to say Merry Christmas. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And we're always forced to say, well, it's the festive season instead of saying it's the Christmas season. It's supposed to be offensive to other people. Get serious. I'm not offended by Hanukkah. I'm not offended by Ramadan. So who the hell is going to be offended by Christmas? They got to be a jerk.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a woke thing, and get it out of your mind. Christmas. Most other religions see Christmas as being something worthy of just saying Merry Christmas to people. And I've got Muslim friends that always give me Christmas calls. Right
there, you go. Yeah. So.
And as people know, I've got a Muslim. Half my family is Muslim. They always call us on Christmas, on or around Christmas Day. They call, right? They're giving us Christmas celebrations, right? Okay, send Christmas cards. Should have done that by now, but then again, we've had the postal strike going on until yesterday.
That's right, we have.
Yeah.
Oh.
So probably this year has been the worst for Christmas cards, unless you're giving them out, of course, at a Christmas party that you host.
Yes. Well, we'll see about that. Yeah, you could do that. You can do the virtual one. You can send it online. It doesn't make the handwritten card is so much nicer, though. It has that personal effect. Of course, then again, I'm a boomer, so I'm like that. My mother herself, although she tried to get into computers and emails and all that other stuff, pretty much washed her hands of the whole thing and started writing letters and cards again.
Yeah,
because it was too just impersonal to her, electronic stuff.
Okay, so I've got one. Here you go. I don't know whether it will show very well, but there you go.
What the heck's that?
It's a sign, "Merry Christmas," hung between two trees and two red birds looking.
Oh, okay, yeah, the camera quite didn't focus on it at first. Yeah, I could see that. Two cardinals too.
And it's the most wonderful time of year. Right. I've had these hanging around for a while. So there we go. Somebody's going to get them this Christmas.
Yeah. Right. Ho, ho, ho.
And here's the thing. Back to Christmas jumpers. If you're such an expert at making Christmas jumpers, well, make a Christmas quilt instead. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it. I've got my needle point all ready to go.
Okay, what about Christmas wreaths then? You any good at that?
No, I don't think I had one for a long time, actually. But I live in a condo now, so. But I did have one when I lived in the house. I moved out of there in 2019, but my last year with a wreath on the door was 2018. So. But
okay, some game suggestions from our listeners.
Naked Twister.
Twister, right?
Oh,
Musical chairs that could be done naked as well.
oh, we got a theme here.
Especially
Christmas nudity.
especially the person who loses the chair. In order to get a chair back, they've got to strip.
Okay, yeah, you could. Yeah, well, you could play. You actually could play strip poker, I guess, too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so the theme here it's no longer a nativity scene; it's a nudity scene at your house, and so yeah. But
Okay.
don't forget, as you're walking around your place playing these games all naked, don't forget to keep wearing your little red elf hat. That always
Okay.
that way you can see we're totally naked.
Okay. So Mike says Merry Christmas. And Betty says it's a word we only get to use in December. Yeah, there you go. And Betty like one of my cards. Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody. You too, and hugs. Says Betty. Yeah. Okay. Have a great.
Thanks,
Have
Betty.
a great. You're going off and doing the stuff right now. We know that. Okay. So beware this afternoon. Expecting hazardous winter conditions.
Yeah, this is going to go from this afternoon over to tomorrow. It looks like a full 24 hours. We're going to get a bunch of snow, bad driving conditions. And that's the big thing here. In early winter, you have this period where the pavement is still kind of warm, the ground is still kind of warm. So what you're going to get is snow going on there, and there's going to be ice. There's going to be ice underneath the snow.
Right. I had this last time we had this. I had exactly that. I had this period where I moved the car, and it kind of went. It juddered, right?
Yeah. Well, there was a lady.
It seemed as if one of the tires caught on a bit of ice, but as I applied the brakes, because mine's a slightly heavier car, it managed to reconnect to the ground. So just gave me a little mini shock for there.
Well, a lady just a couple of nights ago, a lady here. So there was a light. There had been rain, and then it froze, and a lady came into the parking lot here. And she thought something was wrong with her car because she couldn't control it. She turned it, and the car didn't go anywhere. And so she stopped and slowed down and stopped it. And I happened to be pulling in at the same time. And I realized that was ice in the parking lot. So she got out of her car, and I said, "Don't walk any longer because there's ice here." So I went over and I kind of helped her back to her car and told her that there's nothing wrong with her car, that was ice. And that was why her car didn't respond to when she turned it.
Yeah.
So she just slowly then started again and put it into her parking spot. But there you go. And she says, "Oh, I should have snows on." I says, "Well, snows wouldn't help you in this particular case because it's ice. It's ice on, and the snow tires wouldn't grip on the ice too well."
And that is actually part of the problem, is that ice, even if you've got all weather, even if you've got winter weather tires or, winter rated tires, there are times when you can still get, surprised by the ice.
Yes.
We're going to end up with 5 to 10 centimeters of snow this afternoon, with poor visibility at times of heavy snow.
Yeah. So so be very careful today. And it may not look as bad as all that for anybody that's used to the snow, like most of us are. But these early days, you get a lot of freezing under the snow, and you get ice, and you're going to have to worry about your grip.
Yeah.
So just be careful there. Remember, there's kids out now too around, still school kids, that sort of thing. So, so it's it's not good. I think I just like to say though too also that my Kiwanis Club yesterday, we delivered $2,000 worth of school gear to Simcoe Street School. Yay, Kiwanis.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah. Okay. St. Catharines and Niagara Falls are going to continue to fall short of the province's targets for new builds. This is bothering me greatly because of the fact that I've seen well, Angela tells me about what's going on, the supposed new builds in St. Catharines. We comment and talk about these new builds in the falls, and it's like you see this building that's going to happen. Not going to comment upon the building. Then they're going to build a building at this location. Nothing happens.
Well, the developers are blaming the development fees and the amount of initial investment they have to put into a house or residential area at first, and the long time before the return comes. And right now, as the market has slowed down, they're kind of loath to start putting the shovel in the ground of building anything new if they're not really confident they're going to get an early return on their investment.
Yeah.
So when the developer comes in and builds an apartment building or something else, there's a lot of money that's being held up. And one of the slowest returns is residential building, particularly an apartment or something like that. It takes a while to build it. You have to get your development fees paid, which is money. Then you have to borrow the money for it, and then it takes them 2 years to begin, even from the very.
But again, this is not, them blaming development charges. No, development charges are always around. It's part and parcel of doing business and making developments in whatever area you do. There's always development charges. They should plan on that.
Well, that I'm just telling you what they're saying.
I know what
they're saying, and it is working.
I'm not criticizing you, Dave. I'm just criticizing them.
No, I know that, but I just would like to point that out. That is their opinion, and although the development charges or the housing, the incentive from the government, $1.5 billion to put into communities that meet their housing starts, it's working in Welland. They're able to meet their housing starts and even best them. However, here in Niagara Falls, we're only at 59% of our housing starts, and St. Catharines was at only 73%. You have to be at 80% in order to get some extra money from the province, although that's in dispute. Niagara Falls disputes some of that. So here it is.
We've had such fanciful developments going through City Hall that I'm looking at them and thinking they're never going to get off the ground.
Yeah, well, here, the Niagara Falls Builders Association Executive Officer Chuck McShane said municipalities often blame it on developers for falling behind provincial targets. However, he said the housing market is probably the flattest it's been in 10 years, while costs continue to increase for developers. We have development charges doubled, tripled across the board. As we move forward, we need to understand that the market, nobody is going to put inventory into that ground. Between the development charges and permitting charges, engineering fees, lines of credit, within all that, you're going to have $50,000 to $70,000 tied up per unit, and that's before you even start construction. That's before you even make any money, and you're not going to be finished for another 2 years. And it gives an example here. A 50-unit apartment building, he said, that's up to $3.5 million in fees in addition to the millions of dollars spent on actual construction. So that is their argument. So you can point all you want as the developer, and I have sympathy for the developers because they're suddenly asked to accelerate this pace by which they build things, and they don't have enough construction workers. They don't have costs of everything have climbed right out of the roof. The Canadian dollar is super weak, so anything we get from the States is super expensive compared to us. So the developers certainly do have a point. And let's put it this way: any municipality wants that money that comes in for housing starts. They definitely want it. But if they can't meet their targets, something's wrong. There's money right there. If you start X amount of houses, you're going to get this amount of money from the province. And yet we haven't been able to do it here in St. Catharines or Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
That tells you something. If there's free money out there and you can't take advantage of it, it's not because no one's trying. It's for other factors. You definitely, if somebody says free money and this is all you got to do, you do it if you can do it. If you can't do it, then you don't get the free money.
Well, I think that some of these projects, we've got a dual 30-floor hotel / residential in Niagara Falls. We've got a 72 floor in Niagara Falls. We've got a 77 floor in Niagara Falls. We've got a 30 and 12 floor building in Niagara Falls. They all seem so fanciful rather than practical, get it built now projects. And in St. Catharines, they're no better. They've got this 30-floor condo unit with no parking, by the way. That again, they knocked down Gord's Place, the Gord's Place restaurant there.
I remember that.
And they haven't built it.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, there's a lot of different factors here.
Yeah.
Development fees, the capital outlay that a developer has to put forward before they can even turn the soil. So you have to put quite amount of a capital outlay first. So there is money that you're using that you're not getting return on for a couple of years. Add to that, they don't have enough construction workers. I'm telling you, they don't have enough good construction workers because you cannot train a construction worker that fast.
Yeah.
Tradesmen take time to learn their skills. So you can't take somebody right off the boat and say, okay, you're going to be a roofer today. No. Or you're going to be able to build cabinets and install cabinets. Not so. It takes a while. So there's going to be time, or else you're going to get a lot of shoddy workmanship going on.
Yep.
The idea of having warehouses, the 50 or so plans for warehouses that came out of Ottawa, that's a very good idea that Mark Miller announced some time ago. But I don't see that being engaged. And the federal money that is being assigned for housing that should have come back in 2015. 2015, it was promised by the Liberals, but they didn't get on it until 2 years ago. And that was largely because of Poilievre needling them about the housing shortage. And then suddenly they remembered, oh yeah, we were supposed to give communities money to start development. So they run around the different provinces making it look like they're giving money. They are giving money, but it can't be used because you still need construction workers, you still need bricks and mortar, you still need all that stuff. And it's more and more expensive. And you can't just say, here's money, build.
Yeah.
So the developer is already building something. And so you come along and says, hey, guess what? We want you to build twice as much as you're building now. He says, well, where am I going to get the workforce? Where am I going to get the capital to put the money up front?
Yeah, but then they should have had the capital ready by the time that they actually put in the application to City Hall.
Yeah. Hey there, Gary. How's it going? I saw you there. 881 Slick. You and I got to go for some wings pretty soon. Anyway, so that's the whole problem. And look, being a skilled laborer like a roofer, plumber, carpenter, it's a very good, very, very good, satisfying vocation, basically. But we just don't have enough of them.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, and it's peaks or valleys for. I know I was a construction worker, industrial construction worker, and it's peaks and valleys. You're either working your off, or you're not working at all.
You're either working on a job and you've got 15 other offers to go and work somewhere else for the same amount of money, or you've got zero work and zero prospect of work.
Yeah. So so it's very, very difficult. Anyway, so that's basically it. We need uh, people in the trades, and that's going to be largely men. There are some women out there, but I'll reiterate this: building stuff and construction is pretty hard on the body overall, and women have a very short shelf life when it comes to construction work. They're good in their 20s and 30s, but then it's just too hard on them. We tried that. Wheels, LOL. Let's shoot for 2 weeks from now. Okay. Well, I've had
issue, right?
It would have been this week, Gary, but my son came down, and he's staying with me here, and I've had some other things to do with Kiwanis and other stuff, so it all got in the way. Plus, my youngest lad's moving into his new house, so new used house. So it would have been this week otherwise.
All right. Where was I? Okay. Yeah.
Unless
okay,
you want to happen today. Okay.
It's all good, right? As Gary's saying. Okay. All right. So got an interesting one here. Reporter from Thorold Today, his name is James Kulik, is basically saying one of the big problems we've got is we elect all these elite people into our municipalities, and we're then complaining about Niagara Region's crazy tax hikes. And he's taking aim at particularly at Wayne Redicop, the mayor of Fort Erie, and he's basically saying here he is seated when he was giving this address about the region's budget. Here he was seated in his home, in front of a sprawling fireplace adorned with gold-plated candlestick holders on the mantle. And basically, he said, "There's a moment I'll never forget, the weight of a tone-deaf statement on financial pressures delivered by a wealthy lawyer who's never known such pressures." That was crushing, right? And he said he's not any complaints about the fact that Redicop is wealthy. Hey, he's done work, he's been done whatever, but he's saying big problem is that I think we've messed up. We let people like him hold the reins of power at a municipal government level, in city halls across the country, and filled exclusively with people who are top bracket earners. Yet when it comes down to budgets, it's the normal everyday people that hurt the most. He's saying put those people in government.
Well, he's got a really good point. And one of the points he makes here is if a person of a certain amount of wealth, and he says here on both sides of the equation too, elected officials are nearly all wealthy boomers, and the staff are all 100K sunshine listers.
Yeah.
So when you come up with a budget of 9.6 and somebody says it's only going to add $200 a household a year or something like that, the people who have a fair amount of money, that's nothing to them. It's all relative.
For the people whose only disposable income is $200, that's everything to them.
Yeah. So when you're talking to somebody like Redikoff and boomers, wealthy boomers, basically, they go out for dinner and they spend $200 or $300 on a fine dinner, where the average person, it hits their budget if they get a bunch of takeout, and it's got about 60 or 70 bucks for their family, right? That's a hit for them. That's their treat. And when somebody spends $200 or $300 on a meal and it's nothing, it's all relative. Basically, if you come up to me and says, "Guess what, Dave? Your taxes are going to be 50 cents more a year." Okay, yeah, that's all right. But if somebody tells me that it's going to be $200 more a year, that's going to hurt me. but it's not going to hurt the person who has a lot more money because they're looking at a $200 increase, like I look at a 50-cent increase or a $50 increase.
Yeah, and basically what our reporter here is doing, he's saying every year around about this time I write my Santa's wish list column, right? My wish list column for this year is very, very simple. It contains a single request that regular people become councillors, that we have no more wealthy lawyers, retired investment bankers, tenured professors, or real estate developers on the council. Please and thank you.
Yeah. So we say when Redikoff says that the 9.6 regional budget, 9.6, nearly 10% tax hike is, it's reasonable, right?
Yeah.
But that's
Not reasonable
for somebody who's got a lot of money. It doesn't make much of a difference. But for us poor chumps down here, that makes a bit of hard difference. And the idea here, and it says here, this is the way they put it, because the rich guys at council don't care. Every year at budget time, some number crunching nerd puts a line in the budget report that says that a 10% hike is only an extra $200 on a tax bill. Then the rich guy counselors look at that and say to themselves, oh, only $200. That's nothing. I spent more than that on dinner with my wife at Rizzo's House of Parm last weekend. But a bunch of normal guys would look at that and say to themselves, damn, $200, that's a lot. That's like 2 weeks worth of groceries. Well, try to get 2 weeks worth of groceries for $200 these days.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
For a family, that's more like a week's worth.
Yeah, but exactly. So it's a different it's taking things at a different perspective, and at the end of the day, one of the questions, of course, is that as mayor of Fort Erie, he's probably a full-time worker for Fort Erie, so probably no longer an active lawyer as such, and because he works on regional council as well as being mayor of Fort Erie, so he's got it relatively good.
That's not really the problem, I think, though. He's talking about ordinary guys, ordinary people.
Oh yeah, ordinary people will actually think of this a whole heap differently. Absolutely, they will.
Yeah, but who's going to have the money to put? Well, you yourself, you know that too. You went around door to door to door, but you don't have enough money to get elected in Niagara Falls. You don't.
Yeah,
because you can't afford the amount of signs that have to go up and everything. Yeah. So when he's talking about this, when he's talking about only the sort of wealthy people get in, that's because they're the ones that can afford the signs. They're the ones that can afford the ads. They're the ones that can afford the money it takes to get elected. Back when we had the ward system, much more humble people got in. I'm thinking of
it's a lot easier to get in because it's a lot easier to get in because you probably typically only need 800 to 1,200 votes to get in, and you can do that, and you can focus around a much smaller area. So your ward is a physical boundary that often you can walk from your own house.
Yeah, the only other thing you would be like maybe like Mike Strange, who is an Olympic athlete and he works with cancerous children. So of course he's got everybody knows who he is, so he's got a leg up there. But you take somebody, any of the other persons there, they have to work hard to get out there, and the money outlay they have to put out will hurt them. So to get ordinary people in the council, what you're going to do is you're going to get people of means who've got a lot of good money coming in as a side hustle. They're part of the side hustle. Plus, when you have a lot of money, we'll look at a guy like Vince Cario. Like, he spent a lot of money getting on council, and yet when he did get on council, and he didn't get votes equal to the amount of money he outlaid.
Yeah.
He was able to outlay so much money that he was able to make, like, if he had the same amount of money that, I don't know, one of the other councils.
My outlay on the votes was on the money I spent. I basically spent $3 per vote that I got.
Yeah. So I don't know. So Mayor Diodati got 12,000 votes. So if you say $3 per vote,
he also way exceeded his budget.
Yeah, and so he wasn't going to take any chances. He had people out there waving his signs right to the very last minute on voting day. So anyway, this is going to always be a problem. Number one, ordinary everyday people don't have the time to go on council. They don't have the means to. They don't have the means to which to put the money out there to get elected. So that's the number one thing. You have to present yourself. You have to get out there. People have to get to know you. Look at what's happening in the States. You got to be a multi-trillionaire or backed up by multi-trillionaires to get to get elected. It takes in massive amounts of money.
Yeah.
Elon Musk gave $200 million to Trump's campaign. Other people have given 50, 60 million Trump's. And Kamala Harris' campaign even had more. They had 4 times as much as Trump.
Yeah.
So money doesn't always do it. It's how it's spent.
Yeah.
So, but if you have two people equal, and they're running for the same post, the person with money is going to get it. And unfortunately, that's the way our system is. We don't necessarily go on merit. And plus, the average voter thinks, well, if they're rich or if they're successful, they must have merit. They must be sound decision makers and that kind of thing.
But again, I think there's, I think that James Cullick is right insofar as if you've got normal people who've got normal everyday problems, plotting the budget, they might actually be saying that, they might be saying, well, $200 tax hike, that's way too much.
Look, if you ever go traveling and you go to a developing country or whatever, and you get a modest hotel room, and your modest hotel room costs what a local citizen could stay alive for a couple of months on one night.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's the relative thing they're talking about here.
Yeah.
That when Redikoff comes and says, "Oh, geez, it's only $200 per household more per year," that's not much. Well, not to him. And when you think and the accumulated cost, it's just like somebody who's got a super duper sports car and rips down the road and he gets $1,000 fine for going too fast. And Joe and his clunker goes the same way.
Here, Mr. Officer, here's my $1,000.
Yeah, let me go on my way. So it doesn't hurt them like it would somebody else. So getting a speeding ticket with, like, unfortunately, our society is stratified to benefit the wealth of the wealthier. The ones that have more money are more benefit. And what the article says here, a lot of the counselors view this more as a side hustle, more than just a real occupation. So it's just something they do on the side rather than permanently. I'm not so sure that is a fair assessment of a counselor. You take a guy like Bob Gell, who's a very wealthy man, but he's lived an ordinary life. He was a cop. I remember him at school. Yeah, when he wasn't a wealthy guy there. He came from his father was a successful businessman, but he lived a fairly humble means as all that business was being raised. Now he's a retired guy, and he can put his business acumen and other skills to use in the region. So I have no problem with a guy like that. because at certain times of his life, he's lived a normal life. He knows what the average person, and every day.
And also, you know, he has been the person who's been sticking it for kind of, we need to actually keep this budget down.
Yeah. And so
I haven't heard much from him this year on this particular issue, but, you know, but that just is what we, you know, remember what we hear in the papers is only what they choose to report, not what's actually said.
Yeah, there's a lot of political constraints too, but to get back to the article, yeah, it sounds like a really good idea. Get a plumber in there, get a waitress in there, get, you know, in Canada, we are fairly well educated enough to be able to take on, the average person probably could take on the responsibilities of a counselor, do the research necessary. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to be somebody that has down to earth common sense. And I'm afraid you get out of that zone when you have people making those decisions that have a certain amount of wealth. Look at city council now. Strange, Peter Angelo, Diodati, they have a lot more money than the average person. Lococo, she probably has more resources than the average person too. Chris Dabrowski, he's a successful businessman, so you can assume that he has resources that others don't. Paulette Newesteg herself, these people are above the standard wage earners.
Yeah,
all of them. And so that gives you a sense that you know, and then you got a guy like Wayne Campbell, who was a school teacher and that kind of thing. So he worked for Hydro, right?
Yeah. By the way, you know, actually talking about Wayne, does anybody know what's happened to Mr. Campbell? We had an update on his health.
He's very ill.
I know he is. I've been expecting any moment an update on his health, but other than knowing he's ill,
the only thing we're going to hear is that he got over this, he's recovered, or he didn't make it. Those are the only two things we're going to hear in a couple of weeks.
I just wondered if anybody had heard, because I haven't.
Yeah. I don't know. Karen Fraser tipped us off about that, last week, I guess. Or 2 weeks ago.
She did. She did.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, there is going to be no solution to this, but that is a harsh reminder to regional councils. Forget who you are and try to put your feet in our shoes. Mm-hmm. From where you sit atop the mountain, everything's fine. You know, if you're sitting on the top of your mountains of money, and there's a flood, well, the flood's not going to get to you. But farther down the mountain where there's not so much money, we're going to get the flood. So, so to look at things through your own eyes when you are in a comfortable position financially is a lot different from those people, those average everyday persons trying to raise a family, trying to get enough food on the table, a nice roof over the house and everything. And unfortunately, it's a good idea. It sounds good to put more ordinary, everyday, practical people in council, but they just don't have the means to get there. Like I said, you have to come from small communities where you know the people. Otherwise, you're going to have to spend a lot of money getting people to know you. And the only way you do that is with money. So the average person is already at an extreme disadvantage if they want to be a counselor.
Yeah. All right. And I think we can leave it there, Dave.
Yes. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody, and have a great week. Or we'll be back, actually, I think on the 2nd, probably.
On the 2nd? Well, yeah. You can see us on the 2nd, and I hope you have a great holiday, everybody. Great New Year. Kind of put aside all the strife that's out there, and kind of put aside all the all your angst, and just enjoy the time with your family and friends. And but do think of those who are less less privileged than us, and this is really a time to remember those folks and to remember those who are suffering around the world as well. But aside from that, just lay back, have a good time, enjoy the meals, enjoy the company of your family and friends. That's a really good reset every year at Christmas.
Yeah. And we thank you for being loyal listeners this year, and we'll look forward to growing our listenership in the new year. And thank you, everybody. And Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you